Hello.
How are you doing?
Is you wearing pleather?
That's right, girl.
Vegan leather.
That's
it is
right.
all the
Is
rage,
that
y'all.
what? Yeah, faux leather. There we go.
Yeah, I love it. It's cute. You look
Thank
very
you.
cute. It's nice to see you. I love your
It's
bracelet
nice to see you too. Thank you. It says kawaii.
Of course it does. Yes. No lights behind you with Queen. No crown today. No.
No, they're
Okay.
in the bathroom.
Okay. Anyway, welcome back to Life in the New Normal podcast, y'all. I'm Ashley Heydrich, and this is our life coach, Dina Paduano.
Yay!
So today, are you ready, Coach Dina?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you have a lot to tell me today because today's topic is be the CEO of your own damn life.
Yes. Start learning how to make those executive decisions.
Yes. So this is another one of those topics, y'all, that Dina shot me about stopping, wishing, and starting to do. Dream big, but start small. Most importantly, start. So you want to elaborate on that, Dina? What did you mean by that?
You're such a jerk. Well, what I meant was, what I mean by that is, I've been thinking a lot, as one does, and I'm thinking how often we will wait to start something until it feels right, until somebody will conspire with us because we don't want to do it alone, or until we think we're going to have enough courage, or you get where I'm going with that. So in the sense is...
I got my jacket on. I'm ready to CEO.
Right? Me
Yes.
too. But it's like I got big energy, right? So it's like, well, and if you're thinking about this, at the end of the day, it really only matters what you decide to do.
Always.
So I know, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people give their power away by going outside of themselves in order to get confirmation from somebody else to go, okay, you're ready, or don't do that, it's too expensive, or, it's really hot today, you shouldn't go walking around. And we're all just looking for someone to give us an excuse to not to have to start something or not to have to do it. Or it's super easy because if we're scared, we're going to be like, oh, well, so-and-so said, okay, but I want to know what you say. Right. I want to know what you want. I want to know at the end of the day, how much of this is your fodder and how much is it of other people's opinions in there navigating themselves in your brain. And so we listen so much to outside sources when we don't even know how they're really running their life.
Right.
And how if they're following all of the things, yes, and if they're following all the things that they claim is the best for you or not the best for you or whatever. So being the CEO means put your big boy, girl, person pants on and do the hard things, not expecting instant gratification, not expecting that it's always going to be easy. I think a lot of us are afraid of hard work and are afraid of literally failing, or maybe if we're starting, it's harder and then we won't be able to finish. So then sometimes it might be easier to just not start at all.
And I understand that. I do understand that. And I've been in those positions, having restarted my career 5 or 6 times or whatever in different areas. It is scary. Every single time it's scary.
Sure.
But hopefully if you have that little burning thing in you, that passion for something you really want to do, like that's always been my North Star with those things. And it's like, well, I try, and worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you have to be okay with that fear of...
For sure.
I don't even call it failure anymore, because if you don't try, you're not going to succeed at everything, but if you don't at least try, you don't learn anything. You don't learn what works and what doesn't, and you never answer that question for yourself of like, well, what if, I'm one of those people that does not want to get to the end of my life and go, well, gosh, I really always wanted to do so-and-so and I never tried it. Like that to me seems like the definition of hell. Like, why are we here?
Well, and I would also take that a little bit further, not just from you, but if you ask someone why they never tried it, I'm sure they have a plethora of information to give you on why they never tried it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with fear, or someone told them something, or when they were little, something happened, so then they've been afraid ever since, or everyone has reasons. We're not here to say that you don't have reasons, and some of those reasons are valid. I get that. But if I'm going to be honest with you, myself, and everyone, when I pursued acting, let's just be realistic. I always missed at least a class a month, and I was paying for those. I didn't do everything that it could. I wasn't willing to work my ass off, so clearly I didn't want it as bad as I say that I did.
Right.
And I wasn't willing to do everything that it took to get what I needed. And I'll say the same even now for my career as an intuitive, is making a certain amount of money, being in the pain that I'm in, getting by was just satisfactory for me, because that was all that I could handle in those moments. Right? And so, again, if I'm being honest, I wasn't out there, and I'm not saying to go get 3 jobs and go to night school. It's whatever you're passionate about, and being literally the boss, instead of giving your power away. Start asking yourself these questions that you go to look for in other people. Don't tell people who are gonna poo-poo on your idea, and then compiles to why you're not gonna do something. It kind of,
that is a huge
yes, and I don't think
point.
People realize that it knocks the wind out of us.
You cannot, y'all. I know you've got your partner or whoever you want to discuss every little thing with, and you think you have to share everything with. If that partner, you know, if they're not going to be supportive, sometimes maybe
and there
you just
are
let them find out when you start.
Yeah, and there are people who are Debbie Downers, and
Yes.
It's not that they want to be, it's just that that's where they're most comfortable. And if you know that about them, why are you getting frustrated with those people if they're not giving you the support that you want? They don't even give it to themselves. So why are you looking for it for yourself?
Well, I learned a long time ago, too, that, you know, when you tell certain people these things, they're running everything through their filter of, like, could I do that? And then they're going to say all the reasons back to you. They're not going to word it this way because it probably doesn't even occur to them that they can't do it or why they don't see it working for you. Well, they ain't living your life. Damn it. You know, I mean, it's not their life.
And a lot of people are afraid for you. So then
exactly.
they'll be like,
That's what
I don't want you to do it because, you know, it's so much hard work and I already know that you're already so stressed. And that doesn't help me in this fucking moment.
No.
It really doesn't. I need encouragement. It takes a lot for me to come out and share something with other people. And so when I get there, you know, last week I had a conversation with my dad, and I was just looking for a little bit of support in this thing. And I said, I had to release so-and-so from my life. Mm-hmm. And he literally goes, that's because you always, and I go,
always.
I said, you need to stop right there. And he's like, what? And I go, listen, in this moment, I don't need to be blamed for what just happened.
Right.
I need support. Again, I'm not going to blame myself, but I am going to take accountability. Has my dad ever been any different in these situations? No. But again, as a child, you want your daddy to show up for you, and you're hoping this time he could be different. And in that moment, I can tell you at 54, my dad was able to hold space for me after I went off about certain things, right? And I'm grateful for that. But if you have certain friends who you already know who they are, why do we keep picking up the phone to call them for the support that we need? And we know they're not capable of it. And then we get mad at them.
Right. Yep. I learned that the hard way over many, many years.
Mm-hmm. It's not fun. Listen, adulting and humaning is not for the faint of heart.
No.
This shit is hard.
It is. You have to be your own cheerleader.
Yes, especially for emotional. I'm very sensitive, and I'm very, very, I come off that I'm very independent and I don't need help. But people, a lot of your very strong friends need help too. They're just not going to come out and say it. And so literally we all slap a narrative to like, oh, so-and-so's always in a good mood, or so-and-so doesn't need my help, or so-and-so's that. That's what you're slapping onto that. Have you ever asked so-and-so if they need you or how you are actually doing? Like, you seem fine on the outside, but how are you doing really? You know, or am I showing up for you as a friend? Like,
well, that would be better. I don't want somebody to ask me sometimes if it's about work or projects or whatever. It's like, I kind of like keeping that stuff to myself because I don't want to talk about all the details with everybody. Because a lot of people aren't going to understand this podcast journey. They're like, you're doing a podcast. Why are you spending so much time on that? Well, how are you making money? Well, that's my business. Don't worry about it.
I get that.
You know? Or the
but
writing
then maybe
or
those aren't the right people, right?
Well, and some people will ask very innocently, like, how's it going? Have you made any money yet?
Yeah, I get that too.
It's not really about that, you know, but I mean, yes, I would love to at some point. I can only hope and dream that, you know, but right now it's like, this is part of the journey and I'm loving every minute of it. So don't you worry about it. But, you know.
Were you ever, and I'm being witchy at this moment, but just in general, for all of us as a whole.
Get in there, woo-woo.
Right? Were we ever told that it was okay to let people go who didn't have a place in our life? Like, we always had to have a reason why we had to release people. They had to do something horrible, but we still would forgive because it was the religious or the Christian or the Catholic or whatever thing to do. So basically we were taught, to take abuse, verbal, emotional, whatever abuse. What I'm learning is that I don't have to justify who I let in my life and when or how or why I let them go to you. Maybe to that person I respectfully would give a reason. But I think what happens is a lot of people, if we tell them certain things, they think that it's going to happen to them next from us. So then they don't support us in that moment because they're like, well, I mean, you're letting that, and then it becomes about them.
Right.
And it's like, like you said, you know what to share and what not to share, and that works for you.
Yeah, and you learn who you people are. And on the subject of cutting people out, it's like, I don't do that unless it's really, really drastic. I've learned that I like to have somewhat of a conversation and a gentle, like, hey, this doesn't work for me anymore, or at least try, or at least reach out with love and say, okay, well, we're not going to see each other. Okay, well, I wish you a good summer. End it on a pleasant note, and you're not just sending them off into the abyss without feeling love from you, but you know, distancing.
Okay, so then I'm going to shoot this at you.
Right.
I'm an executive, right? And I'm going to shoot this at you.
Oh, we're talking about something.
What if? No, I'm talking about the same thing, letting people go from your life, right? So this is where I think we all get confused. And I, Dina, am tired of fucking being polite all the time and always being the one to do the right thing. Right. So what I say to you is, if you've had a friendship or a relationship or a coworker or whatever, where there have been years of you trying to explain to them what you need or how they show up for you or the things that they say aren't nice. At what point, if they don't hear it and they keep coming forward, at what point do you just go, I'm done? I mean, at what point? I know. So let's clarify for other people that there are some people that don't deserve that love and light and that kind closure. There are some people who deserve to be cut off 10 years ago and don't feel bad about it. Right. Because we sit with the guilt. Right. And go, well, I feel so bad because I have such history and they've been there for so long and I know them for so long. And I'm not saying to do it to everyone, but I am saying if you were trying to now be the executor, the executive, make executive decisions, then speak with yourself, in your soul, in your heart. If it's breaking your heart and it's something that you're ruminating on all the time, you got to let it go.
Well, yes, but I think the distinction I'm trying to make, and I'm working on this right now currently in my own life, because I have a hard time with
psychic.
It. Yeah, it happens.
Go on.
Freaking psychic. Anyway, is releasing people with kindness, because I have tended to, over my life, release them without kindness.
Yes, okay.
And then you live with that. And I think, listen, y'all, I've dug deep into the Bible because I grew up Christian, years of it, years and years and years of studying it. So I don't say this lightly when I say I think that what Jesus meant when he said forgive 70 times 7 is for yourself, meaning release, release. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about you and your mind having peace with releasing what this other person has done to you, letting it have an emotional hold on you and controlling your thoughts, the way you navigate now, because you're walking around hearing this person's thoughts in your brain or feeling guilt about something you said to them, and they're unhealthy anyway, so you can't control what their responses are. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to work on sense. I'm trying to work on, and I had 2 opportunities this weekend to practice, and I failed both of them. But I'm trying to just give them a minute, respond to them kindly. If they keep coming back and they don't listen, walk away, and let them sit in it.
Let me ask you, because you grew up in a religious way and I grew up in a very religious way, and then let's add the Italian guilt onto that religion, is how and when did you first notice or when you started learning that thinking about yourself first isn't selfish?
When did I learn
thinking about
that?
How you feel? Because listen, I was always taught
when
you're thinking about yourself, that's selfish of you.
Right.
You need to care about this, that, everything you needed to feel and do was for everyone else, not for yourself.
I learned that pretty early, to be honest, because being gay, I knew that if I didn't get myself out of that community, I was going to die. I would attempt suicide or something. I was I watched all my friends doing it, and it was just so incredibly healthy. And you have everybody around you telling you you're going to hell, and they're worried about you, and they're praying for you, and they're crying about it. And no, you can't live your life that way.
So did you just know, intuitively that
Yes.
wasn't true?
Yes, there's something deep inside me that thought, well, why would God have made me, to be, what is this all about? So, I left when I was 19, that city, that little small town, and went to Atlanta, and that I stayed for a few years, and that wasn't big enough, and went to LA, and LA was fabulous. Welcomed me with open arms. So,
which I love that. And
me too.
I will tell you, every time I did an act of love towards myself, I was berated for it.
Right.
And then what I would learn was I would learn how to service others instead of myself. And I'm talking in very toxic ways, whether it's sexually, whether it's cooking for them, cleaning for them.
Right.
I was taught to, a woman's place was in the kitchen, and I was taught that the boys don't have to clean, but the girls do. And I was taught that the better woman you were, that only those kinds of women get the men that are worth having, right? And so I would spend so much time servicing, being if I give them the best sex, make them the best dinner, and do the best. And then I was so confused that I wasn't getting what I wanted.
Right. Well, my mom told me when she came to visit me in LA, I'll never forget the first time, and I love you, Mom, and we've had a lot of talk since then, but she came out to see me, and she goes, "This is a very selfish place." And I was like, I thought about it. I'm like, is it? She goes, "It's a very selfish city."
What does that mean?
Well, in her opinion, being a Christian, and where you do, you're not supposed to put yourself first, and you're not supposed to pursue your dreams. You're supposed to do what's best. And I think somewhere there has to be a little bit of a healthy balance of both, right? But if you don't put yourself first, how in the hell do you have enough emotionally to service the people around you? Or I use a service word, maybe is the wrong one, but help, support, have anything to give to anybody else. But that was something that took me a lot longer to learn. There's the gay thing that I will protect myself on that level at all costs now, because I know from watching friends of mine go through that what the ramifications are.
What does that mean, the gay thing?
Protecting who I am as a gay person. I will do whatever it takes to make myself, putting myself in situations or keeping myself out of situations. Like, I won't go to certain churches
Yeah,
anymore.
because it's a safety factor.
Right. It's a safety
Mm-hmm.
factor. And there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
churches that say, welcome everybody. Well, that's all fine and good. But if you're still preaching from the Bible and you're still saying that Leviticus and all these other, passages where, somebody said that being gay was wrong, that doesn't work for me because I don't
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to that version of the Bible and that translation that's been handed down over the years. I believe in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God or the universe or a higher power, but it's not the same as what, a lot of people
For sure.
subscribe to.
And
And I have to
I
do that
also
for my own mental health. I have to.
absolutely. And I also think that it's very important to make the clarification of being controlling is not the same as being the executor of yourself, right? Making
Right.
executive decisions. A lot of times, my nickname growing up was CF, control freak. And it turns out that
Guilty.
I was just nervous and I
Uh-huh.
was trying to regulate my nervous system with the, ADHD and all
Totally.
of the neurodivergent stuff. And yeah, part of me, because I had such a tumultuous childhood, I needed that control,
Yeah.
right?
Me too.
Now that I've learned, because what was happening was I was so easily manipulated by certain words that if I was being controlling or whatever, I was like, oh, that's a judgment. I'm this, I'm that. And then I would shift it, right? But now, thankfully, after years of therapy and all the work that I've done, ain't no one going to manipulate me into saying that a decision that I make for my own well being is being selfish or
Right.
being controlling or
Right.
being whatever it may be. So if this one I always think is so funny, and it may not have to do with anything, but people, when they buy certain gifts, they get you what they like. They don't
Yeah.
get you what you want.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or what they think you like. And I'm not saying everyone does that, but that's their way of keeping control or whatever. That's not an executive sort of decision. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying when you're the executive of your own self, your own business, your own things, it's not mental manipulation, it's not games, it's not a power trip. It's that nobody is going to have your best interest in mind, nobody else other than you.
Right. That's
And
absolutely
so
right.
that's what we have to learn, is we have to learn that everyone else will make decisions from their filter, their nervous system, their fears, their whatever. The only one who can make the best decision for me is me.
Uh-huh.
But we've been told our whole lives that that is selfish and that
Right.
is this and that is that. And I'm giving people the permission to be selfish, but I think also we're so afraid of being unliked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're so afraid of
Yes.
pissing people off, and we're so afraid of rocking the boat that it's like, now's not the time. Oh, well, let's wait until after Christmas because I don't want them to upset the kids, or I
Right.
don't want. And then we tiptoe around all of everyone else's stuff. But what about us? It's
Yeah.
my Christmas too. It's my holiday too. It's my vacation too. And so
Absolutely. And we
if
may
you're not
have.
thinking, if you're not thinking what's best for me, then I sure as shit need to think what's best for me.
Well, absolutely. And to your point, it's like we may have grown up with voices around us that, gave us the idea of how we're supposed to think and feel and behave. And undoing all of that is a huge part of the work. And it takes, a long time. You got to live and have life experience before you can kind of look back at that and go, oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure about this. I think my happiness might look different than that. But yeah, the guilt is a huge thing, especially in religious communities and when you have kids, like you said, or whatever. But I mean, if you're not pursuing that thing that you're here on this earth to do and be the greatest version of you or me, I would say if I'm not here to be the greatest version of Ashley that I feel I can be for myself to make me happy, to, do all the things, that to me feels like a sacrilege. That to me is the definition of sacrilege. It's like, why would God give you this beautiful life to live on this earth if not to be the best you that you can be? There's only one of you. There's only
Yep.
one. And you
But
were made
instead, we're
so
compared to everybody.
uniquely. You were made
But
so
instead, we're
uniquely and
compared.
beautifully.
Yes.
I know, but it's
Totally.
like that is something the gay community, obviously just hammers in again and again and again. And I'm so grateful for all the people there that do that, that just teach you again and again. Like, regardless if you're gay or not, there is only one you. So, what are your gifts? What are the passions you have that you can bring to this planet that nobody else can do in the same way you do, with the same experiences you've had?
Totally. And I'm just really finding out, because I've given myself permission. I didn't even know what all of my passions were and what I really love, because
Me too.
I was always doing what I was supposed to do, or what was going to be accepted, or what people wanted from me, or what was expected of me.
Right.
And
Me
so with the house, it's like I'm giving myself the childhood that I always wanted, right? But who says I have to be a grown-up in my own home? Why am I putting things in certain cabinets or certain things because that's what you're supposed to do? This is how you start. You start with the little things that you have control of. If you want your closet in the living room, do it. If you, like, there are so many things.
If you want your crowns all over the house, do it.
Do it, exactly. But a lot of us do things because it's what we're supposed to do. Well,
Right.
Who the fuck said it? You're not the boss of me.
Well, I
I'm
heard
the
all
boss
my
of me.
life. Yeah, I heard all my life, my worth was about making a certain amount of money. Well, do you have a good job? How much are you making? What are you getting paid? You're not making any money? You're not making as much money? Like, God forbid your worth, your self-worth is attached to a dollar sign. Because, who is that? What does that make me then when I leave that job or I leave that role? That was a huge thing for me to walk through at that point. Or maybe let's say you're a wife, but you're not happy. And who is that when you walk away and you're now not part of that family? Who are you as an individual? All those things that you have to learn about yourself as to what makes you you. That's where you get your inner strength from. That's what empowers you, I think. It has for me anyway. Having the strength to walk away from that career that I loved for a long time, but I started to feel like, who was I without that? I didn't like that
because we're never celebrated for that, right? We're never celebrated of good for you for having the courage to do something that I couldn't do. Because I would be too scared shitless to walk away from that job security.
Exactly.
Right? And I don't think we're celebrated for having thoughts of our own.
Right.
That's not encouraged to think for yourself. Right? And so I think that people who think for themselves and then act upon the things that they think of scare other people. And it makes other people uncomfortable because you're going against the grain.
Right. And when you're in a relationship, almost always one partner makes more than the other. So what does that say? Is one less worthy than the other? Like, how do you, like, it just makes me crazy.
I think it's a mindset.
It's a mindset.
And you're only as good as your thoughts tell you that you are in your head.
Right.
So again, I'm going back to the head being a safe space, is that if you're repeating everything everyone always told you, yeah, but I don't have this, and yeah, but I don't have that. Okay, what if you did stay at that really good job and you had all that stuff, but you dropped dead tomorrow? What the fuck good was that for? You didn't get anything done that you wanted to do, but at least you had all that money in the bank to give to everybody else.
Right. And I'm not saying we don't need money to survive and we don't
need
to make a certain amount to get by and to just walk out of your job tomorrow. But what I'm saying, it's taken me a long time to learn, and I fear that I set a bad example maybe for my younger brothers and sister, is always chasing that money. And even when you get there, either you never feel like it's enough. There's always still a next level you can hit that you're chasing, and maybe that's fun for a while because it is fun to grow and chase and see what you can do. But my point is, you get all these things, and then what? What if you're just? It's just for me, I had the most beautiful house in Los Angeles with a guest house, a pool, a Range Rover, a Mercedes in the driveway, a motorcycle. I had all these things. And then
drums.
What is drums?
Yes.
I do love those drums. But it's like, it's still just me there. So what does that mean? If I was using them all every day, sure, maybe, but you're not, and you just start to sort of look around and take stock of what's important and what really makes you happy. And
well, and
for
it's
me,
like, wait a minute.
that wasn't the answer. I
No,
thought
but
it was.
we're doing all this, right, for like, let's say status quo, right? But how many of those people are actually a part of our everyday lives that get to witness what our lives are really like?
None
So
of
people are
them.
just, no, so people are just slapping narratives of like, oh, she has a Range Rover, oh, she has a house. So then they get to assume whatever they want about the rest of your life without realizing that you have feelings, wants, you might be lonely, you might be this, you
Right.
might be in debt, you
Yeah.
might be whatever, because so many people are in so much debt trying to live up to
Right.
or trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
do all of that stuff where it's just insane to me.
Yeah,
Like
and I was
I
both of
I
those things. I did have moments of loneliness in that beautiful home with all that stuff, and I was in some debt for a while. And that's a
mhm.
very scary place to be, especially if you are by yourself. It's like, well, why did I
Yep.
put myself in that position? That was dumb.
And not
But
only that,
you
but
know,
why are we allowing the thoughts of other people to gaslight ourselves when we're alone in the safety of our own home, and we give them more power than we realize
hmm
because they're home in our safest space, speaking and having a narrative and a say in what we do in our
hmm
decisions, and it's like that doesn't fucking make sense.
And the other thing that I thought was important too is like, who's to say that money can't come from your passions? Who's to say that if you trust and release this job that makes you so stressed and that you think you need to have this status, what if you release it and do something else that you love, or pursue your other passions, that in some way,
Mm-hmm.
in some shape or form, something's not going to come back to you differently so you can
Well,
be happy without, killing yourself.
so it's like when people say with the podcast, "Oh, are you making money?" What about good for you? Are you
Right,
getting a lot out of it?
right. Are
Like,
you
does it
happy?
make you
Dina,
happy?
are you happy?
Exactly. Right? It's so fucking happy.
I
And
love
I,
doing this so much with
I
you.
love it too. And I'm going
And
to
the
bring up
cooking.
yeah, me too. And then I'm going to bring up a little controversial one is I am a big believer in, I do not believe in staying together for the kids.
I don't either.
I think that it is
Don't
very
either.
unfair to put that burden on the children
Yeah.
when they have to watch. Wait, are you setting an example of what love is?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be with this person, why would you want to expose your kids to this all of the time? And I beg people who are in these circumstances, is it because you're afraid and it's easier to say we want to stay together for the kids? And I'm not saying this has nothing to do with financial.
This
I'm talking
conversation's
about
making me hot.
right? I'm talking more about emotional. I'm talking about if you're willing, if your kids are 5, right? You're willing to sacrifice yourself in a miserable situation for the sake of your children for another 13 years. That doesn't make sense to me, right? So if you're going to be an executive of who you are, you have to make the best decisions for the long run for yourself, because if you're the best version of you and you're getting the love and respect and the things that you need, you're going to be a better parent.
Well, 2 things there too. If you're staying together and you know that it's not working and you know it's not getting better, and that is the reason that you're staying, 2 things are happening. One, like you said, you're setting an example. You are the greatest example for your children. So you're teaching them it's okay to stay in a relationship that they're not happy in, because that's what a successful relationship looks like. And number 2, that means you're avoiding doing some work that you would probably do if you're brave enough to step away. And that might not mean that you're apart forever. It might mean that you have to step away from each other to appreciate what each other brought to the table and to grow in different ways. Or it might mean, but you don't have to assume immediately that, it's all done and over. But
For sure.
I've done
But
the
if
most
you're gonna,
growth. Yeah, well, I mean, people can grow in relationships, but they have to be
yes,
committed to it. They both have to be committed to growing.
for
If
sure.
if both partners aren't committed to growing and learning and being better versions of themselves, I don't see that as a successful relationship. I see that as torture.
And if we're gonna be a business, meaning I'm meaning this metaphorically, people,
Yeah.
is that if you're gonna be the executive and you're looking at your life as a business in a whole, and you're picking friends and you're picking your food and you're picking whatever, aren't you gonna do what's best for the business, best for the end line, best for, so if we have friends that constantly put us down or don't support us in a business situation, we cut those people loose because that contaminates the whole office pool. It brings down morale, it brings down things, right? So I'm not saying life works like that all of the time, but a lot of us are so used to putting up with things because we thought we had to. Now that we're learning, and if you're at this space, I'm not saying if you're just starting the work to jump into this right now. I'm saying once you've learned and you've gotten your foundation and your bearings and
tools.
You know now exactly what you're working with, it is so important to assess things and go, well, that doesn't make sense for the business anymore because that was when I was this way or feeling a certain way about myself or my confidence wasn't up, right? And now I don't need that because that is more cost, right? And then so we cut our costs and we release things. And what I'm realizing is I don't need a lot of friends. I never have needed a lot of friends. I do better one-on-one.
Yeah,
and that's
me too.
just okay. But I've also had
quality
to learn, totally. I've also had to learn that that's a lot of pressure on one person. So I've had to learn how to make myself happy. And that's the scariest thing is like we were told that, oh my God, your friend should make you happy or your boyfriend should make you happy or your partner should make you happy. And no, that's just the added bonus.
That's right.
You make yourself happy and then they add to your life.
That took me a long time to figure out too. And it is, I mean, it is so true. Nobody can make you happy because what happens if they drop dead tomorrow? Then what? You're never going to be happy the rest of your life? No. You have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, and you keep trying to get them to change in order to make you happy the way you think they're supposed to make you happy. It's like, well, that doesn't fucking make sense because I don't even think you know what makes you happy. Right? And
well, it's like I told you. Oh, sorry.
No,
I told you too that I never liked the term best friend because I always felt like there are so many different people that add different things to your life. Like you just said, that is a lot of pressure on somebody, you know, who, I mean, I don't want to be somebody's everything. Even as a romantic partner, I don't want to be responsible for being somebody's everything. That's a lot of pressure. Yes, I will do my part to, you know, be happy with you and try to make you happy as best I can, but it is an inside job, 1,000%.
Well, and a lot of people get hurt from those kinds of statements because a lot of people are, they're in different spaces. So it doesn't mean that we don't give them the opportunity. It just means that we show them that we navigate differently. And we're at this space, and I don't want to be my partner's teacher. I will grow with you, but I don't want to have you catch up and me get you there. But I also feel too, as that comes with age, right? And I feel like we learn to make decisions, and there doesn't always have to be a reason why someone doesn't fit in your life anymore. They don't have to do something wrong, or they don't have to have changed or whatever. You are allowed to change your mind about people, places, and things. It may have been good for you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 minutes ago, but you are allowed to change your mind as long as you do it in a respectful way.
And can we talk about the fact that marriage was not originally concepted by the church? People think that it was.
What was it concepted by?
It was like, because it made the most sense as humans to come together and form this bond to procreate and move forward, because it just made more economic and social and whatever sense for back in the day, where it was like, you know, I forget where it started, but it was not the church that first put that in place, is what I read not too long ago. And I was like, I don't think people realize that. And I think they're so terrified that they made this sacred bond, you know, to God, to everyone. Well, you know, no. Again, this is your life. You get one this round. And it is your job to be the best version of you that you can, you know. And if someone just consistently is dragging you down, I mean,
and it is your job to let that person go. It is your job to speak up for yourself. It is your job to do what's best for you, because nobody is coming to save you.
Right.
Nobody can.
Right.
They can't be
It's
there
hard.
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And as much as someone will save us in a moment,
Sure.
they can't stop their lives to make sure you're protected your whole life. You've got to do some of the work, and that's the scariest part.
It is so scary when you're in that. And Lord knows I've been there in, relationships where I was terrified to let them go. And I would think, well, I'm never going to find anybody this good again, or I'm never going to find anyone this whatever. And that's where the work comes in. That's where you got to work on your self-esteem and on your self-worth and start to do, put all these tools into place that Coach Dina, you've, talked to us about on this podcast.
And doing the work, people, means that you have to feel actual feelings. And that hurts to feel
hard.
all the feels. And I think that's what we run from the most.
Absolutely.
Is feeling. So hence we numb out on alcohol, we numb out on pills, we numb out on food, we numb out on sex, we numb out on drug, whatever it is, we've learned to numb it out so that we can just keep going and not have to do the actual work.
Right.
And doing the actual work is the only way to get where you need to go, because there is no cheating. The universe knows, and whatever you get out, whatever you push out, you will get back. So if you think that you've gotten away with something, it will come in a different form, but you're gonna have to learn the lessons.
Ooh, that is so true. I have learned that because y'all know I have been a serial monogamist for a long time until recently. But it's like every time I released one partner, if I didn't do the work on me, I didn't even know what the work was to do. And not that I was intentionally doing it, but you keep attracting those same people because that's what feels normal to you.
Yes,
they're just in a different
it's
body.
Familiar. Totally.
It's familiar. They're in a different
and
body.
So for you, what did the work look like? Like when you started learning because doing the work means so many different things for other people. I don't think people know where to start.
For me in particular, it looked like being alone and being okay and finding out what happiness looked like, just being by myself, just with Ashley, not worrying about having someone else there all the time.
So were you reading? Were you exercising? Were you taking care of your health? Did you cry? Were you drinking in excess? Give them the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, I didn't stop drinking until a year ago. So yes, the drinking was all there. I continued to sort of just, continue having fun and going out and keeping myself very busy. While I was single, I just stayed busy, which maybe that's step one, and you sort of release that way and you stay busy for a while. Great. Yes, I started seeking out information like it was my job. I wanted to read every book on relationships. I wanted to understand. I listened to podcasts like Esther Perel. I love her. And I would listen, but I remember listening to her podcast and not understanding why she was giving the advice she was giving. I'd listen and I'd go, I would have told them something completely different. And that tells me now how far off base I was back then in the beginning. Because I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. I didn't know. So, it was just continuing to consume information. I sought out the help of somebody else to talk through things, Sometimes y'all got to do that. It's so worth it, because if you don't have the tools, you got to start somewhere. And sometimes it's easier to speak to somebody you don't know, who's not going to judge you, who's just going to say, well, Ashley, this is what you're bringing to the table that's causing some problems, and you might want to look at it differently. Yeah.
I think what I've also learned too is I am somebody who needs to process things out loud, meaning to talk it through with someone. So I have to pick a very trusted person, and then I realize that once I talk it through a few times and I calm myself down, I can gain a different perspective, but holding it in for me only exacerbates it and then makes it worse for me. So I've learned that in doing the work as well, is that sometimes I will hold things in and I will put it on pause until I can talk to my therapist. And then other times I listen to podcasts or whatever, but I will always seek out someone who I trust if it's something that's really bothering me or that I really need guidance on or whatever. And I know this about myself, because before I would just drink it and hope that when I woke up in the morning it would be gone.
Right.
Right. And so it would just get you through that moment. But still, again, putting off the inevitable of that I was going to have to deal with it at some point.
Right.
Right. And so, because sometimes before I wasn't trusting, like you said, because we didn't know any better and we came from a different end, is that because my perceptions of things were so skewed from my environment growing up that I didn't know what was true and what wasn't, meaning that what was supposed to be healthy and what wasn't healthy.
You don't know how to trust your own gut at that point. It's like you're you're doing a whole body reset, it feels like. And it takes time. It takes hearing other perspectives and letting it resonate, and then trying some of those practices to see how that feels and how it sits with you.
And
it takes a
other
while.
people aren't always going to be they're not going to have the best responses because they don't want things to change. And so if you come out with some verbiage that's all psychological, I've had a lot of people go, oh please, like stop with your mumbo jumbo. And that was, for me, I thought that they were safe people to sort of try to practice that on, and in that moment 25 years ago it wasn't, right?
Yeah. So maybe, but it's very gradual. It's not like your whole life, turns in an instant. You make these gradual changes, and subtle change, profound impact. You do a little pieces at a time that feels like you can handle, and you want to grow more. Once you start doing the work, it's like you said, you can't unring that bell. Once you start to feel healthy, and once you start to trust yourself, it's like there ain't no going back. You're not going to give that power over to somebody else again. Most likely.
And you keep asking yourself during it is, who do I want to become? What do I want for my future self? Where do I see myself? And I'm not talking about monetary things. I'm talking about a state of being where, do you want to be free? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have that freeness to express every emotion and not be put down or made fun of? Do you want to feel security? Do you want to, it's different for everyone.
Right.
And so wanting and checking in with you of going, what do I want for my future self? My number one thing is peace. I want to protect my peace, because with the peace, that starts with everything. If I am peaceful, then I better serve clients, or I better serve my health, or I better serve my friendships.
Yes. Yeah, and two things too. You back in the day told me, when I was starting this journey of trying to learn different ways of being in my next relationship, you said, well, you don't have to wait for your next partner, girlfriend to come into your life. You can practice on your friends. You can practice on people at work. So I did that.
I'm so smart. I'm so smart. That's really good advice.
Well, it was really great, because in my brain I was thinking, God, well, how will I know if I've learned anything until? A lot of people think that, and they're like, well, how do you know if you've done the work until? But I found it, just in daily life, and the way I started to move differently, love differently, release differently, respond differently.
Did you have to release some friendships when you started doing the work in the process?
Yeah.
Or did other people not respond in a positive way? Some people, I'm not saying all.
Both. And some people, and some people you love dearly, and when you say release, maybe it just means you don't speak to them all the time. You can still keep them in your life, and you can still love them and check in with them.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, but maybe you're just not in the same space, and things don't resonate the same way, or you don't have as much in common anymore. That's okay. You can still love them and have them over here, and talk to them. But I definitely had to I started resonating differently with people, so I found that new friendships would come in that would replace maybe those old ones, but in a certain sense. But there was something else I was going to say, and I forgot what it was.
There was two things. You were talking about that, and
I don't know.
For you, it's menopause.
Could you ask me a question, damn it?
I did. I don't know, but I love this subject so much, only because I think anything to teach us to empower ourselves in a respectful way to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
is so important to share with each other. So if someone's telling me no, that is not a signal to me to try to convince them to say yes. I'm going to
Right.
assume that they have a reason, especially when people don't justify their no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that you're entitled to their justification of a no? A no means no.
Right.
And I'm not saying it to be rude or to be harsh or to be, I'm saying it because I have my reasons and maybe they're super personal and I can't get into them.
Mm-hmm.
Respect that about people. It's not about you. Stop taking it personal when people are learning to set boundaries for themselves.
Right.
But we've always made it about us, or we've always taken it personally because when I was a kid, oh, so-and-so said that. Oh, my God, what did you do to make them mad? Or what did you do to do that? And it was always my fault of why someone behaved the way they did. And then, therefore, I learned that people's behavior was a total direct thing of my behavior.
Well, I was just about to say that. Like, I grew up with a mother who has no boundaries still to this day. None. Anybody's business is open for talking about. Her business is open for talking about. My business, she wants to be all up in. She's always going to get to the root of what, or die trying. It's like, good Lord, woman. And she knows this, and I love her dearly. But it took me a long time to separate myself from that and understand that not everybody lives that way. I'll never forget when I was 25, I had a girlfriend. I used to just show up at her doorstep and she would go, Ashley, you can't just come here. And I was like, but why not? We're in love. And she was like, no. And I didn't understand that because I grew up with Mama Patty, who just, it's just those little things.
Embarrassingly enough, I actually still do that on occasion.
Oh, girl,
Well, I do only because it's like, well, I mean, they're home with the kids, or like it's so-and-so is like, what I know, I'm learning. I didn't know that either because of you. My family had no boundaries, so I'm learning that you can't just show up at because I don't mind if people just show up at my house.
Well, I would also expect everyone to have no boundaries with me. And so just what you were saying, my mom would always play devil's advocate with me because, again, no boundaries, no nothing. So when I would come in looking for sympathy, it was always, well, what did you do? What did you, And so then, therefore, that's what I learned that I'm supposed to do to my partner. And I push so many people away by just never being the support, but but that's another thing that, you don't know when you don't know. And the minute you learn these things, it's like, oh shit, you got to start.
And I was so sensitive and defensive a lot. And I would take so many things that people would say or do so personal. Right? And I didn't realize that pushes people away because they don't want to be around that or feel accused or be, berated about something. And I didn't know that wasn't normal and I wasn't supposed to take it personal.
Right.
But
you thought you were helping.
Totally. And if you're the executive, the CEO of your own business, you don't have a lot of emotions like that when you're running a company, right?
That's the other thing I was going to say. Yes, exactly. That's the difference I think the point you're trying to make here is that a business is not as emotional as you. So if you can look at it from that perspective and remove that emotional component and look at it and go, would this be healthy for me if I wasn't worried about these things and these feelings?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, so good. Yes. And
tied up with a bow. Yeah.
Woo! That's amazing.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah, it was. Thank you so much for that. So this week, y'all, Life in the New Normal Cafe, we have cacao and almond energy boobies. Are you so excited?
Oh, yes. They're so good. Aren't they good?
They are good. Well, Dina called them balls, but, I had to modify.
Well,
energy
girl,
boobies.
Listen,
you put little nipples on them. They're real cute. They taste the same.
And what do you make as a nipple? A chocolate drop?
What do you mean? You just shape them differently. You just shape them differently.
Oh, I thought you just put a chocolate chip on.
You can't put a chocolate chip on there.
A sugar-free one you have.
Okay, fine. There we
go.
No, I didn't do
don't
that.
mess around.
But maybe I will next time. Anyway, y'all, they're really delicious little, you brought up a good point as to, I don't know why people with blood sugar problems or whatever, hypoglycemia, don't carry around some sort of little, you buy the protein bars and they're full of crap. They're full of everything you don't need and all the wrong
And they're
sugars.
expensive.
And they're expensive. But these are little things. I mean, I wouldn't say leave them in there for a week, but you could carry around, every couple days, swap them out or whatever.
Yeah, and they're filled with like dates. And nuts and protein. And you could even have protein. Yeah, chia, I love them. So again, another great tip.
I really liked them. Thank you so much for those.
Thank
Y'all will
you.
love this recipe. They're great. And chocolate, cacao.
Yay.
Anyway, it's fabulous. And I want to remind y'all again that Coach Dina is available if you decide that you want a one-on-one session for her. Her contact info is in the show notes, so go there and you can book directly with her. And you've still got your special running until the end of June, right?
Yes, until the end of June. It's you can text LITNN as your code, and I will give you $30 off your first session.
Yeah, so that just means when you're booking it in her website, when you're talking to her, let her know you heard about it here. Use that little LITNN code. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Get some money off. Yeah, so anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, and y'all have a wonderful week. We will see you next time.
Ciao. Like, subscribe, follow.
Yes, please. Thank y'all.
Okay.
Join us here each week as we unpack life in the new normal with a new hashtag Subtle Change Profound Impact from Coach Dina. To get a little daily inspirational message in your social feed, follow us on YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Copyright 2020 Angel Baby Films, all rights reserved. For entertainment purposes only.